Hi everyone, and welcome to the first gathering of Bounty Hunters. I'm Eric, I'm the community manager here on Novarama, and I'll be your host. This gathering of Bounty Hunters is meant to be like a bridge between we, the company, and you guys, the people who play Killsquad. So we'll be talking all things Killsquad, how Killsquad was born, the current state of Killsquad, and even the future of Killsquad. With me here right now, I have Danny. He is the CEO of Novarama, and we will talk first a little bit about Novarama, about Killsquad, about a few things. So, Danny, tell me a bit about Novarama, because it's a studio that maybe here in Europe it's known, but in other parts of the world they don't know Novarama. So, what's Novarama? Who's Novarama?
Well, hello everyone from wherever you are in the world. I am Danny, and I'm the CEO and one of the founders here at Novarama. So, our studio was born 2003, so that was a significant time ago. We began doing PC games back in the day because it was the cheap point of entry into the industry. And then our claim to fame is between 2008 and 2016, we were a Sony studio. So we did a lot of games for Sony, for the PSP, for the PS Vita, PlayStation 3, a little bit of PlayStation VR. And then the way this happened is that basically at a certain point we broke apart from Sony, and now we are both in the indie space. And actually Killsquad is the first game we have shipped as an indie studio. So it's kind of like, at the same time it's old because it's something we did in the early days of the company, and at the same time it's new because it's something we're doing for the first time in a long time. So we're super excited about it.
So tell me a bit about how it felt back then to make a game without, a big publisher like Sony. And right now, what's the difference?
Yeah, it's super different. I mean, it's not better or worse, it's just a very different feeling. So when you were under a publisher, basically, on one hand, you had the backing of the publisher, which is like having big guns to, aim at the audience, like, marketing and all that kind of stuff.
And big budgets.
And big budgets. On the other hand, you didn't have the control we have now. So for example, something like this would be impossible because basically there's a huge decision-making stack of people and lawyers and financial people, all that kind of stuff. So again, it's changed a bit. Honestly, being 2019, we really love this idea of connection. I mean, this fact that you guys can yell at us and we can yell at you and we can, kind of like talk about how the game should be. It feels very alive, and that's great. I mean, before you shipped a game and you forgot about it. It was a box and it was selling on, in a game store or something like this.
It's a bit like a collaborative effort.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's more like, it feels more like, we have like a community and we're part of that community and we're all pushing the cart, which is Killsquad. It gives a sense of control and power, and that's really cool. I mean, to be honest, I'm having a blast. I mean, I've been for a long time in this industry, but the feelings we've had in the last month and a half are amazing. I mean, this idea of, we're achieving this together and without the assistance of a big publisher, it's incredible.
Yeah, and it's incredibly rewarding.
Yeah.
So tell me a bit about this card, about Killsquad.
Okay, Killsquad is a funny one. So when you are with a publisher, basically you get to work on games which are not necessarily the ones you would do yourself. So what happens is, because we were under the Sony wing for about 10 years almost, as you can imagine, we played all the games that you guys played. I mean, on those years we
are big gamers here. We are just like you, but with a little bit the difference that we make games.
I am older. I am older, but yeah. But now, I mean, we played, Diablo, and we played Left 4 Dead, and we played Heroes of the Storm, and we played Destiny. And as you can imagine, I've said kind of like the 4 games, which are kind of like the framework of Killsquad. When we played those games, we were always thinking, wow, it would be cool to do something like this. Oh, it would be cool to do something like that, So Killsquad honestly started kind of like a melting pot of ideas from other games that we loved, that we thought there was kind of like a gap in the market. For example, we love Diablo, but we thought, Diablo is story driven and many times you don't want to do a super long story. So we wanted something short. But then Left 4 Dead came out, and then with Left 4 Dead, you get that intensity and that jump and play kind of feel. And that
session.
Yeah, the session mechanic of Left 4 Dead, I still remember that, and that's kind of like 10 years ago maybe. And then Heroes of the Storm, this idea of, I have my heroes and I have my roster. I mean, years ago I was a Warhammer army collector, and this idea of having my own guys and caring about them, kind of like in Warhammer, that was great. So again, Killsquad started like a wish list of things we wanted to do in a game. Then at a certain point in our career, again, because we were just out of Sony, we found kind of like a convergence of things. I mean, we had the time, we had the team, we had the money, we had Unreal, which was a key component of all this because we didn't want to do the engine, to be honest. We wanted to use an engine. And so slowly, Killsquad began like a prototype that we played here. I mean, a lot of Killsquad, I mean, it's funny when you guys say, oh, it plays great sometimes. It's because a lot of Killsquad has been designed by playtesting. I mean, it was just a prototype that people were playing here. And so, of course, as you can imagine, the version you're playing now has been played for, I don't know, thousands of hours here at the studio as we were developing it. You know, it's not a game that had like a grand design from the start. It was more like a rapid prototyping kind of affair. You know, the only thing is there was a point in which it got so much speed that we thought, hey, there's a game here. This is not a prototype. We should basically invest money and time into the game. And then we're lucky to be able to self-fund the project because Killsquad is fully self-funded, self-published. Okay, so it's something we funded as a company. Call us crazy, but you know, that's what we chose to do. But yeah, I mean, you know, what you get now is the result of all that, basically prototyping and development, and a lot of help from partners such as, you know, Epic Games and Valve and, you know, many others.
Yeah, it's self-funded, but we launched an early access.
Yeah,
So,
well, I mean, yeah, that's a good, I mean...
But why is the reason? Why we
Yeah,
launched
so,
an early access?
I mean, no game designer is ever going to be happy with their game. I mean, all game designers want the game to be bigger and better and, you know, huge. And then Killsquad wasn't different. So our vision for Killsquad is, you know, like this big. But then, of course, when we looked at our possibilities, we were like, okay, say, hey, we can do this much, you know? And so we had a discussion here at the company. And to be honest with you guys, we were thinking, hey, there's two ways to do this. One way is to do a Kickstarter, you know, and we go there and say, hey, we're going to do this game and here's some concept art. But to be honest with you guys, we didn't like that route because on Kickstarter, you're just asking people to have faith on you. And faith only gets this far, if you know what I mean. I mean,
You're selling an idea.
Yeah, you're selling a dream. No, I mean, not an idea. You're selling a dream,
Yeah.
you know. And many times, and we've been through this before. I mean, me and you and everyone. You bet on a Kickstarter, and then the game under delivers, and then you're annoyed, and you know it's not good for anyone, you know. And so the alternative for us was to do an early access, which is, hey, let's try to give people the core of the experience, which was a MOBA style RPG with a super high paced co-op. Let's try to make them get it so that they see what we want to achieve, and then let's try to make it grow from there. You know, we thought that that was a way better idea because we had the prototype I was telling you about. We thought, hey, you know what? I mean, we think we have a very good core. We think people will like it, and then from there we will be able to expand and iterate, and that's exactly what we did, you know. So, I mean, when some of you guys say, "Oh, you know, the game isn't finished" or "the game is too small," yes, it is. That was exactly our plan. I mean, our plan was, hey, we're going to make this a collaborative effort with the community. We're going to, you know, give you guys a good sense of what the game is like, and then from there we're going to just make it grow and expand, etc. Now that the game has shipped, and you know, of course, with super good response, so thank you to everyone who bought the game, by the way. Now we're going to put all the efforts and all the revenue and everything into fulfilling that bigger vision, which is going to unfold most likely from now to the end of the year. I mean, it's not like, I mean, this is not going to be Star Citizen. We're not going to be developing this for 10 years. That's not the plan. From now to the end of the year, we consider that the game will most likely kind of like double in content, you know, and in playable hours and all that kind of stuff, you know. But for us, this was always the idea. The idea was always was, hey, let's start with the core and then let's expand. You know, we think there's a lot of games out there. This is just our humble opinion, but lots of games out there are super pretty. They're super, you know, the story is interesting, but they're not fun to play. Then with Killsquad, the core of our vision was, let's make them really enjoy our game. Because if they see that, they will see, okay, these guys have something really nice in their hands. And that's what we try to do. And, you know, that's Killsquad, really.
Yeah, and having all that in mind, where's Killsquad now?
Okay, so we're kind of like in the middle of 2 episodes, right? So, again, we released. Then comes the usual stabilization phase. I mean, let's face it, whatever game you ship on on Steam Early Access is going to have bugs. That's in the nature of doing a game of this complexity. So we've spent the second half of July and all of August just fixing bugs. You've seen our pacing, delivering patches, which has been like one per week. Every week there's been a patch, and about 70% of it has been bug fixing. We're lucky to announce that basically that process is, I mean, not over, but it's basically ramping down. And that's part of the reason why you see our faces now, because now we begin the second chapter of this adventure, if you wish, which is expanding the game. So this gathering of bounty hunters, I'm going to wrap up this first part of the presentation with this idea, but this gathering of bounty hunters is basically like us. Imagine if we were a whale, we're just coming out of the ocean and saying, hey, we're here. We've released, we've fixed bugs, and now let's begin discussing what comes next. The way we want to do this is we want to do this with you guys. So we're going to present our work, the kind of stuff we're working on, updates, plans, roadmaps. We're going to, of course, take questions from you guys because we want to see exactly, how do you guys see the game evolving? Think about this, the core team here at Novarama working on Killsquad is 16 people, and Killsquad has sold as of now around 70,000 units. So your opinion matters a lot to us. So basically what we want to do is just make, open the doors of Novarama to you guys so you see what's going on inside. We can grasp fresh air in terms of, your opinions and your desires, and, just push the cart together from now on. So I expect you guys to have a lot of fun with the rest of the event, and let's begin.
So, before we talk about the future and the Federation, let's talk about the present, the Coliseum of the Unseen. So what's the Coliseum? The Coliseum is a new zone. It's a veteran-only area that can appear at random through a portal, or you can select one of the 2 contracts of the Coliseum and fight on the hardest challenge that Killsquad has right now. This zone is one of the things that we added in the latest update, with some rewards like the weapons of the Coliseum. But we've also added other things like the Wander. That's a wandering merchant that you can find in your adventures on the Outer Reach that sells you weapons. But unlike the weapon merchant on the lobby, this merchant will sell you weapons that you see the stats of the weapons. You see what upgrades those weapons have. So you can decide if this weapon is for you or just it isn't, so you don't buy it. So we added a lot of other things like ultra-wide support, so people that has these big screens now can play Killsquad in their native resolution. There's also a quick play option now, so it will be easier to find people playing Killsquad right now. So now we will talk a bit about quality of life. Quality of life are those updates that are not meant to give you more content per se, like the Coliseum or the next update that will be the Federation, but it's more like improving the game and improving the systems of the game so that it's more fun to play. So that's why I have here with me David Soler. Hello.
Hello.
Present yourself.
Yes, I'm David. I'm game programmer and game designer here at Novarama, and I specialize in the combat design, combat programming, network programming, and a lot of different things that we have done here. And with Killsquad, we wanted to make a really dynamic, action-packed game. So combat was one of the main focus of the game. But also the game is an RPG. So there are a lot of things that have to be taken into account and a lot of bugs that occur. And we try to fix them all the time.
That's right.
And now, with this quality of life update, we want to tackle some of the problems that we have found out. First, for instance, there's the early access skins. We know that they are quite difficult to get. So we want for the event to last longer. So we are increasing the time of the contest, so you will be able to get the skins you want with the time and not pressure. And also, the Coliseum has been our latest update, the Coliseum of the Unseen, where you are challenged for loot and rewards. But we want to make it a little bit more exciting, and that you do not have to triumph and win everything, or die and lose everything. So this time you will get more and faster rewards on the Coliseum. There will be rewards at different intervals, so you don't have to finish the entire Coliseum to get your reward. You will get trinkets in the middle of some waves. Also, there is a problem that has plagued with Killsquad for a long time, and that is the dreaded sky lasers killing you on the vendor.
That's right.
And also those meteorites killing you while you're buying. We know that although it's pretty funny, it can be really frustrating. So we are going to make the vendor safe zones. the lasers and meteors will not hit the vendor. So you can buy really safe and have no problem with that. But beware, enemies can still attack you. So take that into account. Also, there are some bugs right now in the Coliseum. Some turrets stay active all the time and then they go down and you can no longer hit them. Some enemies appear inside walls and all different kind of bugs. We want to attack them and try to fix them, and we are working really hard on doing so. Finally, some other quality of life updates will be that the next week we are working on a better contract screen. We know that you love doing the Coliseum contracts, but they are really difficult to find. So we want to put them there so you can play them whenever you like. And also we are working on doing better matchmaking so you can find the players to play and the game doesn't feel a little empty like it's now.
Now we will talk a bit about what's to come to our next update. And that's why I have here with me Rick. Hi Rick.
Hi, how are you?
So who are you? Who are you here? What do you do?
I am Rick. I am the producer of the game. Basically, I manage all the production. I've been doing video games for the last 12, 13 years. And I'm working at Novarama, and we're just developing Killsquad.
Yeah, that's right. So tell me a bit about the Federation.
So this is a great update that we're working on right now. It's called the Federation Forces. It's a different type of factions. And we have 3 amazing units that we're currently working on. The first unit that we're going to see briefly for you guys, so we don't spoil anything to you, is the turret unit. So the turret unit is basically one of our Federation police guys sitting on a huge turret, which you have to dodge, of course, its attacks. It has several different types of attacks, and it varies depending on where you are when you're standing. So the turret is the first unit, and then the second unit is the Grenadier. It's basically a guy with kind of like a huge bazooka, who shoots missiles at you, and he also has like several special attacks, like basic attack and then a jump, one that is multi-grenade as well, and a rollback. I don't want to spoil everything, so you guys can experiment this when we actually release this update. And the last unit, which is the hardest one to kill, the most complicated one of them all, is the commander unit. He has special attacks. He's able to dash as well. He can do buffs to give power to the other troops that he has. He can create a huge dome as well, and he can do a rebound attack as well. So that's more or less the basic of these Federation units. 3 amazing units coming, and then you will have different ways to play it as well. You normally, right now I think there's a version that you find it in the game that you get locked up. These they are like standard way of units attacks. This one is a bit more of a challenge, so players can expect basically to tackle a whole map with these units on it.
Yeah, but let's stop with the talk and let's show the people what are these Federation forces. So this is the part where we will be answering your questions and, well, reading your suggestions and talking about them. So this is the Q&A, and we will start with Danny here.
Go for it.
Well, first question, and before all of this, I'm going to butcher some of your names, so you'll have to excuse me. But the first person to ask us a question is Mont, and Mont asks, well, he tells us that you reach higher vectors too quickly.
Mm-hmm. We have 2 answers to that. I mean, there's 2 people who said this thing, and on one side, if we can do kind of like a survey or something like this to understand how widespread is this opinion, because if really the community at large feels that the game progresses too fast, we can slow it down. That's something we discussed. But again, we don't want to do this right away, because then we can make the game too grindy, and we don't want that as well. Also, you need to keep into consideration that really, we're concerned about changing the velocity of the game, because there's a lot of new systems coming, and new systems of progression, and you'll see about them today on the gathering. And so we think that once those systems are in place, actually people are going to progress more slowly, and then most likely it will feel right. There's going to be progression tied to weapons, there's going to be progression tied to your heroes, and we feel, we may be right once those systems are in place. But again, if there's any way to do a survey so we can basically gather your opinions at large, sure, that's what we're here for.
Okay. There's a question also about leaderboards.
Leaderboards is a funny one, because basically we are going to do them, but not in the classic sense of the word leaderboard. The problem with leaderboards is that usually you attach them to something like a PvP game, right? Your score is how good are you versus how good I am versus you, etc. Then, because our game is co-op, a leaderboard as a competitive thing does not work that well. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to do a system of what we call reputation. So here's how this is going to work. The idea is that each one of your heroes, by doing missions with that hero, is going to accumulate experience. And then that experience is going to rank up into a global number, which is going to be your rank, your hero rank. So for example, your CAS will be rank 100 or rank 200. And that's going to be permanent, okay? Because that depends on how many missions you do with CAS in this case. So that's going to give you a little bit of the similar flavor of a leaderboard, because for example, when you go into a hunting mission, you're going to see that your teammates, you're going to see, oh, Eric is rank 500 or Rick is rank 50. So you're going to be able to tell those ranks right away. And of course, we're going to also accumulate those ranks in a global player rank. So your player rank is going to be the sum of the ranks of your heroes. So again, yes, we're going to do something that feels a little bit more like a leaderboard. No, we're not going to do a leaderboard in the more pure sense of the word, because we think that belongs to more like the esport PvP kind of space, and not so much to a PvE game like Killsquad.
Okay, nice answer.
Thank you.
So Bam asks if we can make the Coliseum always available.
Yep, and it's so easy to make it always available that it's always available now. In the quality of life patch that we had put out today, you have the Coliseum right away. Okay, then that's kind of like a quick and easy answer. But then let me tell you that actually today you get the Coliseum like a mandatory mission within the veteran space. But then starting next week or the week after, depending on how quick we are, you're going to get a whole new contract screen, which we'll be talking about in a minute. And that's going to make it even easier for you to find the Coliseum or any other contract. So yeah, it's coming, play it right away.
Nice. So he or she also asked about the console port and if we will have cross-platform eventually.
So we have met both with Microsoft and Sony and with Valve to discuss console versions of Killsquad. They are coming. From the political side of things, they are happy for us to bring the game there and to have crossplay between the platforms, because basically either we have crossplay or we will not do a console version, because basically in a multiplayer game, what makes sense, as you've seen in games like Rocket League, is to have all the community together, not to separate the community by platform, which is kind of like very old. So yes, it's coming. We began working on our console layer this week. It's complicated because everything involving network is slow. So just to set expectations right, we're targeting to have console versions of Killsquad on PlayStation and Xbox summer next year. So that's summer 2020. There's no conversations about the Switch version because it's a whole different type of machine. Performance is different, use case is different. So there's no Switch in the plans. But yes, it's coming, and yes, it will have crossplay.
Nice. The next question is about the roadmap, if we are still sticking with it.
Yes and no. A roadmap, of course, it's the vision of what you want to achieve with the information you have at that point. And so what's happening with the roadmap is that, of course, as we evolve in the development, there are some things we said we think are less important to you guys, for example, in events like this. And there's also things that we think are more important than we thought before. So to give you a couple examples, in the roadmap, we think we needed more enemies. So our roadmap is going to change and we're going to have more enemies, and you'll see some of those today, by the way. at the same time, some things that we said on the roadmap don't make sense anymore. For example, leaderboards I was talking to you about, that's going to change as well. So it's not so much, oh, are you, I mean, a roadmap is not kind of like the Bible set in stone. It's something that should guide your work, but you need to let it basically evolve as the needs of the game evolve. And again, we think at the end of the day, what matters is that we're going to stick with the same dates. So you're going to get an update every 6 weeks, give or take, and you're going to get the same amount of content, if not more. It's just that basically by advancing on the game, we get a better understanding of what you guys need, and then basically can focus on those things. So I wouldn't want to stick to a roadmap that I don't think it's valid anymore in terms of, you know, our vision of the game evolving. I prefer to just go with the best information we have today, which is like 1 month after when we first put out the roadmap, for example.
Well, so the last of Bum's questions is, can you add max deaths during a contract on multiplayer?
Yes, we can, and that's actually it's a fun one because that's already in the plan. It's not stated clearly, but if you look at the roadmap today, you'll see that there's an update called Plague that comes around Halloween. Then the update of Plague comes with a new set of contracts, which are going to be contracts to really make the game more challenging, because, you know, the theme of Halloween and kind of like a dark theme. So we're going to have what we call curses. Curses is in contracts in which there's some sort of like a damnation on a team member. So it could be that one team member does not evolve, for example, and he's always level 1. It could be that one of them is slowly dying and you need to keep him alive or something like this. Or it could be this example that Bum is saying, you know, of, oh, you know, there's only a limited number of response, so that you, even with your team, need to get the contract right in just 2 or 3 lives, so to say, before being told it's game over. So yeah, it's coming. So just, you know, bear with us while we do it. It's coming on the Halloween update, which is called Plague.
So Dude Random asks if we will add at some point craftable items.
Yeah. Okay, that's a very, very common one. We're giving the credit of this one to Dude Random, but it was asked like 4 or 5 times during the gathering. So I'm going to give just one big answer, which should satisfy all of them, because, I mean, this goes to everyone who said, can I re-roll statistics? Can I manufacture a specific weapon? I mean, all these kind of questions have the same answer, which is, yes, we want to give you more control on your weapons and your gears, and that's going to come in our December update. Here's how this is going to work. As of now, you get a weapon or a gear, and those are basically predefined. You know, there's a random number generator maybe, and, you know, it's kind of like, oh, I got this one or I got that one, but you don't have more control beyond that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to introduce this concept of a blueprint. A blueprint is an item that you may find. It may be given to you as a reward. It may be sold to you by a vendor, but basically a blueprint is basically a blank slate to do a new weapon or a new gear. Then the blueprint will require you to accumulate certain resources to be able to manufacture that weapon or that gear. So once you've manufactured that special weapon, which you'd crafted from scratch with those resources, what's going to happen is that that weapon or that gear is going to have your regular slots for perks, but those slots are going to be empty. So instead of you being able to just enable the slot, what's going to happen is that you're going to be able to define what goes on this slot. So you're going to be able to say, oh, you know what, I would like a weapon with this perk, and this perk. You'll be able to do exactly that. So that weapon is exactly the one you wanted. Of course, as a consequence of that, that weapon is going to become more valuable because it's a weapon that it's more suited to your style of play. So what we're going to do is for these special weapons, that most likely will have some sort of a special name or something, what we will do is we will allow you to gain XP with that weapon. So the weapon will have an XP bar, and then via the XP bar, the vector of the weapon will grow with the weapon, so that you get this feeling that because it's a custom weapon, basically it grows with you in a way.
So that's nice. So another question from Dude Random is, can you do an enemy that inverts your vertical control axis to mess up with you?
That's evil. That's mean. Yes, we can. Let me put it this way. There's over 30 enemies now in Killsquad, and there's many more coming. And of course, we're always looking for new behaviors for our enemies. You know, doing behaviors for enemies, many times it's just a matter of doing a list of cool things that an enemy could do. And so I don't see why we couldn't do exactly that. You know, having an enemy that basically, you know, like mixes up your controls, that's actually a cool idea. It could be too mean for the players, but yeah, that's something that on our wish list of things we would add to new enemies in the future. I'm going to add that one right away because I think it makes perfect sense. I mean, again, we're always looking for new things that our enemies would do.
Yep. So Lichty asks if you can add the ability to remain in the same group after a contract is over. And I'm sure it's not only Lichty, but this is a request that has.
That's a classic.
Yes.
That's a classic. I mean, that's one in which we need to ask for apologies to you guys. That should have been in place since the start. But you need to understand a little bit about how game development works. I mean, you're working with dates and you're working with release windows. So we knew that we wanted to release Killsquad July because August is a terrible month to release anything. And so we had to ship in July. And then to achieve that, we needed to be very careful with what we put and what we didn't put in the game. So that's one of the things that fell at the last minute. But the good news is we're doing it right now. So that's going to be done. We hope it's a complicated problem because basically it's network and everything that's network is complicated. But basically we hope this is going to be ready first or second week of August. Of October. In an update we'll do specifically for this reason. Again, what we're going to do is we're going to do kind of like a very arcade machine-like model in which when you end the contract, you're going to get your typical screen that says, oh, continue. And if you press continue, basically you go back to the lobby with the same team so that you can now choose a new contract and off you go, you keep playing with the same guys. Again, that's something, as I said before in kind of like the intro, right? When you do an early access, you need to be very careful of what you target as a core of the game and then what you will add on top of it. So, there's a good balance. This is one of the things I would like to have had before, but again, we just couldn't make it because it's a complicated problem. It's not easy to solve, but we will solve that one right away. There's people working on this as we speak.
Nice. So Snares, I guess. Snares asks if can you allow players to choose contracts so that they can more easily target specific resources?
Yes. So. Let me tell you, I said before we were going to have a new contract screen, so let me tell you how that's going to work. Again, in Killsquad, we did a design in which contracts are basically rotated, and then you get a selection from the existing contracts, and those are the ones you get to select from. Okay, that looked like a very good idea on paper. We have mixed emotions about it now, because again, as Nares points out, and some other people do as well, what if I need to beat a specific boss now because I want to get a specific resources, or what if I want to play the Coliseum? It's unfair not to let me play. So we're going to change from the current screen to a screen which is going to be more like a contract browser. So the way this is going to work is that both in your recruit or your veteran screens, you're going to get all the contracts there, all of them. So there's going to be a scroll bar and you can scroll through all of them. So gone are the days in which you said, oh, I wish I could play this contract, but I can't. So no, you will be able to choose any of them. And then what's going to happen is that whenever someone, for example, you chooses one contract, and that contract becomes one of these contracts with faces of, oh, there's people inside, those contracts are going to go to the top. So it's going to be very easy for you to see which contracts are really contracts in which people are looking for people, and then all the other contracts, which are the contracts you can take right away. By doing this, again, we want to enhance the choice of players, so you can choose whatever contract you want. And also, we want to tackle some internal issues that I don't want to bore you guys with, but basically that have to do with situations in which the current system, Eric could be offering a contract, and for some complicated combinations, I could not be aware that that's going on. So again, we're solving a bug, and at the same time, we're giving you a better system to basically choose what you want to play next. And again, that's coming, if all goes well, end of next week, and if not, 1 week more. But again, we're working on it. It's a quick fix. So we're hopeful that after this quality of life patch that we're putting out today, the next one has this in.
Nice. So another hard name, Dereviani, So he or she asks, please make a language file so that I can correct the translation.
That's easy. The answer to that is yes, it's a good idea, and it's such a good idea that we're going to do this today. Okay, what we're going to do, let me tell you a bit of how the system works internally, so you understand what you're getting. Killsquad was designed and coded in English. All the localization originally was done in English, and then was sent to translation companies across the world for doing translation. So, for example, there was a Korean team doing Korean, there's an Italian team doing Italian, and so forth and so on. Of course, whenever this happens, it's easy to make mistakes because, let's face it, it's 12,000 words of text. And so, there's famous cases like, this private thing of, private meaning private, like in, privacy, but at the same time meaning soldier in some languages such as Russian and Brazilian Portuguese. So, the way we're going to handle this is, again, all these translations are in a master file, which is a Google Docs Excel, so to say. And so we're going to make this public. Okay, so the way we're going to do it is not to mess with all the other players. We're going to make this public to the beta players, so those people who want to help us with the game, we're going to make this public. You'll see a link on Discord right away, and then the way this will work is we will make this read-only for a reason, which is we don't want you guys by mistake or just bad luck to just spoil the translations for everyone. So you'll get reading permission on this file. Then what will happen is if you detect a typo, all you need to do is you go to the file, you detect it, and you can post a ticket to our QA guys saying, hey, this string in this language is wrong, this is the correct string. So that should speed up that case and make your life way easier. On an extreme case, something that could happen, for example, in Gamescom, we met a couple super nice guys from Israel, and they said that there's not that many games in Hebrew, and they would love to do a community-based translation of the game into Hebrew. So with this master file, what you can do is, because you can do a local copy of that file, you could basically, if you wanted to, just engage and do a translation, adding a new column, and then you send us this file, and then we can incorporate it into the game really easily. So again, by doing this, we hope to speed up both fixing of errors, which of course we're super sorry for. I mean, it's in the nature of translating a game that sometimes there's mistakes, but at the same time open the door to do new translations, because again, Killsquad came, I think it's 9 languages, and we totally understand why people want to play games in their language. So we want to support that effort, of course.
Nice. So General Escort asks, we need better balance for solo play.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to do that. I mean, there's a few ways to do this. Astran, we'll be talking about later about that. He had a pretty good idea, which we're going to discuss later. Then the other thing I would say, General Escort, is that please give us information of specifically how you feel we should change the balance. Because, for example, this is super opinion-based. And for us, for example, solo play versus team play is very different in terms of the pros and cons of each. So for example, if you're playing with a team, it's obvious that you get the response because your team can respond to you. That's an advantage of multiplayer. But at the same time, solo play has the advantage that basically, because you're on your own, there's less enemies and the enemies are weaker because we adapt the number of enemies to the number of players. So we feel that the game gives a good experience in both cases, but of course, we're fixing bugs all day. You've seen we fixed more than 200 already, and we will keep on doing that until the end of times. So if you feel there's specific things on solo play that don't work the way they should, please report them so that basically we can fix them right away.
Nice. His next question is safe areas around vendors, and that's a classic also.
Oh yeah.
Safe areas around the vendors so that you can avoid the lasers.
Easy peasy, snippy wheezy. This is done, and it's done today. Remember we said we're doing a quality of life patch today, among other things that has the laser fix. Remember that this is an old one because this comes from a conversation we had about 3 weeks ago on the forums, in which we did a survey of what do you want to do with the lasers. Then the consensus by the community was, first, we want the lasers not to attack while you're in a vendor, which is what we've done. By the way, the same thing applies to the meteors. They will not strike if you're inside a vendor in the new version. And then the second one is we would like the lasers to give a red zone warning as the rest of the enemies so that you can see them coming. So that's exactly what we have done. I mean, we think the lasers are good fun, but the problem is they were massively overpowered because they could attack you while you are basically inside a vendor, and that's wrong. That's what we fixed. Of course, sorry, it took a little bit of time to get that one done. It's not that this is a hard fix, it's more that we were working on other things such as the Coliseum, etc. But now the time has come for you guys to enjoy an experience without lasers killing you while you're shopping. So, have fun.
Okay, so Trainer, he or she has a lot of ideas, but we picked a few. Mm-hmm. And the one we picked is the ability to pause the game during solo runs or private runs.
Pausing the game is a little bit Pepsi versus Coca-Cola or PC versus Mac. There's people who love one way and people who love the other. So I'm going to explain the two sides and I'm going to tell you how we will handle this. So pausing the game allows you to go for a drink, allows you to go to a toilet, allows you to get the phone. I get that. That's obvious. You want to pause the game so that you can carry on with your life. At the same time, not allowing to pause the game, of course, multiplayer breaks the experience, even with private teams. And also the problem is it breaks the experience a little bit because you're trying to generate a certain sense of tension, a certain sense of threat. And if you allow people to pause, that's kind of like gone. So we understand both sides. We think both sides have merit. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a survey of games which are similar to us, that we can basically learn from them. And that's going to be, as you can imagine, Diablo, Left 4 Dead, Helldivers, these kind of games. And we will give you an update on what we're going to do, because implementing a pause in the game, it's not really a big deal. It's more about strategically, what do we want to do? Because it's obvious that half of the community will love it and the other half will hate it, because again, it's a very polarizing issue. But again, what we're going to do is we're going to try to be as neutral as possible, but just basically looking at the best practices from the industry for kind of like multiplayer-oriented games and see, what we should do about it.
Nice. So Celendrin, or Kelendrin, because it sounds a bit Elvish, has a more of a observation that couldn't get the game to work because of the UI. He or she thinks that it's a bit strange and not obvious.
By the way, before we handle this, Calendrin or Celendrin, depending on if you're talking Sindarin or Old Elvish, also mentions thing about permanent progression. I don't want to forget that. It's not like we're ignoring that discussion, but basically Rick, our producer, is going to do a presentation right after this to talk about permanent progression, because it's such a big issue and we didn't want to do just a question, but we'll do a full section on it. And then the second message about getting the game to work, again, it goes back to my point before of at some point we had to decide what was in and what was out if we were to release in July. And then we are fully agreeing with Celendrin that we should have had a small tutorial section, like 3 screens telling you, oh, welcome to Killsquad, here's how you choose a hero, here's how you choose a contract, here's how you play. We couldn't do it just for timing reasons. We will do it right away. The only thing is, because this is, in our opinion, less important than all the other things which are more like gameplay oriented, to do this, basically, it's more about having 2-3 days of a programmer in which we can say, hey, can you fix this? So expect it anytime. I'm not going to make a commitment of when we will do it, because again, it's just on the pile of things that we want to do. And as of now, we're focusing on other stuff. But yeah, tutorial is coming. It should have been there since the start for sure.
So Azrael wants to know about new contract types, to adding new contract types.
Yeah, those are coming. The good news for you guys is new contract types in relative terms is the cheap thing to do. Doing new mission types is way cheaper than doing, for example, a new character or doing a new boss and all that kind of stuff. And so the next 2 updates are going to be filled with new contracts. So the first update, Feds, which comes end of this month, start of October, that's going to come with all the new contracts about the Federation. So as you've seen before, there's a lot of new units coming, and you're going to get contracts which are kind of like more military themed, of assault and siege and defense from the army of the Federation. That's the first update having contracts. And then the second one is Plague, as we said before, our Halloween update. That's going to be big on contracts as well, because basically it's going to have all the contracts which have to do with damnations and the plague, and some of your team members being cursed. But again, as I said before, doing contracts is actually pretty much bread and butter. It's not really super hard. So when we do 1, we will do 10. So expect a lot of them to just appear as we open the floodgates of the contract system. Because again, we'll do quite a few of those, because we're fully aware that those are the ones that create more variety for you guys. So we really want to expand that section of the game vastly, so that the game feels more like wider. There's more things to do, basically.
So Galvis wants to know, he thinks that you can vector up a character, but then buy items for other characters, and then you can level up characters that you actually haven't used yet.
Yeah, that's a very good one. I mean, Galvis, you should try the career in game design, because that's a very good observation. So let me explain the problem, and let me explain the solution. The problem really is that, let's imagine I'm a Troy player. If I'm a Troy player, I can be playing Troy, I can be making money, and then I can spend that money, for example, on updates for CAS. And so as a consequence of that, my CAS would be vectoring up, but I'm not using CAS. So there could be an extreme case in which CAS is vector 100, but actually have never used CAS. That's what Galvis points out, and he's right. I mean, that's correct. At the same time, I want you to look at it in a different way. Think about this. We see Killsquad as a collectible character game, right? I mean, you're going to start with Troy, and then you'll move to CAS, then you'll move to, and so forth and so on. And, future characters we release, our tradition comes more from, let's say, Heroes of the Storm than it does from Diablo. So in that way, here's what we didn't want to happen. Let's say we didn't allow you to do this that we're allowing you to do. You would have Troy, and Troy would be Vector 100, and he would be super strong. But then you move to Cass, and she's basically crap because she's Vector 5, and you've never used it. And so if we allow this to happen, what would happen is that you will only repeat your best character. You will never try to move on to other characters. Whereas if you allow players to spend money gained on this guy onto these guys as well, these guys level up, so you get an incentive to play them equally. So again, it's kind of like a choice between two styles of games. If you're doing a pure RPG story-driven game, Galvis, you are correct. What you would do is not allow you to export benefits from one character to another. But if you're doing something that feels more MOB-esque, more like a MOBA, you want to have that precisely to make the other characters more enticing. Because if not, the degradation of your experience that you get when you move from your favorite character to the others is way too high, and no one will ever play them. So yeah, good idea, but we're concerned for this reason, and that's the reason why we chose to do it the way we did.
So Astron, he says that can we resurrect on single player missions?
Yeah, that's something, again, before there was someone who was talking about balancing the game better for single player, and I said, oh, Astron has a great idea, and this is the one I meant. It's true that on team-based runs, because you have other players, they can revive you, and that generates a very big advantage over single player, because you could be, let's say, playing in the Coliseum and in a Vector 110 mission, which is super hard, but basically one hit and you're done because there's no plan B, whereas that same thing with a team, you can revive each other. That's what Astron is kind of like saying here, and I think he's right. Then it's not about are we doing this, yes or no, it's more about how are we going to do this. So the way we chose, we spoke with the developers this morning about this, and we said what we should do is itemize this. So it's more like an item. So let me give you a couple of examples how this could play out. So one example would be, for example, you could be finding a vendor mid-session, one of these robotic vendors that we have, and him selling you a revival pill so that the next time you die, you revive automatically. So, by doing this with an item, it's easier to keep the economy of the game going. Or it could be a perk of a weapon or a gear in the future, so to say. So that you can actually perk up a weapon with something that allows you to have one respawn with that weapon. I think that's the way we will do this. We will definitely do it. So thank you, Astron, for saying that. That's something that slipped through the cracks and we didn't see it. But it's a really good idea, and we will handle it this way, basically.
Nice. So Rainbow Dash.
I'm more of a Fluttershy fan, but we all have our favorite pony.
So Rainbow Dash asks for more enemy variety.
Yep. You've seen that's where we are all about. You've seen the feds before. You're going to see new semi-bosses that we're going to be working on later today. Of course, the more the better. These games are all about different gameplay patterns, different area of effect patterns, and that requires more enemies. They're coming. The only thing with enemies, as I said before, doing contracts is fast, doing enemies is slower, because you need to do a concept, and then you need to do 3D, and then you need to do animations and code. So they are coming. The feds are coming in a few weeks, 3 weeks from now. The new semi-bosses are going to be coming, through the rest of the year. So you're going to get more enemies. I think as of now we have something like 8 new characters. Considering enemies, NPCs, heroes in production from now to the end of the year. So yeah, you're going to get more variety soon, I hope.
So another question is the lack of progression and allowing to pause the game. Mm-hmm. But we've talked about that.
Yeah, but again, I wanted to reiterate what our philosophy is here. So again, as of now, you have one progression path, which is vector, okay? And then you have a small progression path, which is weapons and perks. So from now to the end of the year, what you're going to get is, you're going to get first a new weapon progression path, which is going to make things way, way longer. And then The second one, which is the one Rick is going to be telling you guys about in a separate presentation after this one, is about our permanent progression, which is going to be both a cosmetics progression and is going to be also what we call masteries, which is progressions in terms of the skills of your character. So again, one thing I want you guys to realize, and let me go back to my first comment when we began this session today, is when we did this game, we thought, let's get the core right. Let's make sure our game contains 30, 40, 50 hours of fun. And then if that's there, it's easy to layer progression, because progression is basically content and it's basically rules. So that's relatively easy to do. You know, sometimes in games, and I'm sure you guys have seen this many times, you get games which have a huge progression and there's a ton of items and a ton of, you know, things for you to do. But then the game itself, it's not fun. And it just feels like a task or a core. You see that a lot of some not very well designed mobile free-to-play games that just have a ton of stuff, but there's no game. Then the way we approach this, I don't know if we got it right or wrong, but that was our strategy, was to start actually the other way around, which is like, hey, let us prove to you guys that the game can be that fun to play, and then let's layer all the progression systems on top, so that basically, with a little bit of time, we have a fun game that's actually quite big as well. You know, so Rainbow Dash and all the other ones commenting about progression, that's kind of like our full answer to that. It's all coming. You know, I know, of course, we're all impatient and we would like the game to be finished already. Me too. But, you know, progression is just a matter of content. So it takes a little bit of time to basically get it all done and put inside the game. So, you know, bear with us while we do it. Thank you.
So Made in Snow asks for more mission types and events. That's coming.
That's coming.
But he or she also asked for PvP.
Hey, classic.
That's a tricky question.
Yeah. So I've answered the PvP question at least once or twice in every show. But again, because I've never answered the question to the community at large, I'm going to take now a couple of minutes to explain exactly what we want to do with this game. Again, first of all, we had Killsquad running a PvP game. In our prototyping phase, you could actually, you know, do a fight in which Cass was fighting against Troy or Zero, etc. So in our prototyping phase, we considered that. You know, we consider, should we be PvP, PvE, or both? Then let me go one by one on our decision-making progress. The first thing we decided is that we couldn't do both. Reason being, I'm sure you guys have played a ton of games and you know this, balancing a PvP and a PvE game is a super different type of affair. You know, in PvP, you need to be extremely fair. You need to be, because you're aiming kind of like the esports kind of crowd, you know, systems need to be done in a very specific way to ensure that the match is even. You know, in PvE, it's a whole different thing. That's more kind of like the Left 4 Dead kind of route. It's a whole different aspect. So first thing we decided is we're not doing both. It's either or, you know, either PvP or PvE. Then when we were ramping up the production of Killsquad, which was kind of like the second half of last year, which is when we were making this decision, to be honest with you guys, what we did is we looked at the market. And we thought, because at the end of the day, we're a company, we were thinking, what is the product that we think can be more successful in the market, right? And then you looked at the PvP landscape and you saw a ton of really strong games, starting with Overwatch, you know, League of Legends, and a million others, because PvP is becoming a bloodbath, really. I mean, there's a ton of games with huge marketing investments and, you know, Apex and, you know, whatnot. I mean, there's millions of games trying to compete on that space. But actually what we thought, and we're huge fans of PvE from back in the day of Left 4 Dead, we thought, you know what, PvE is underserved now. I mean, you can play Monster Hunter, which is an amazing game, but there's not that many PvE games which are great. So we thought, you know what, if we are to stand out in this crowded market, PvE sounds like a better idea to us. So that's the reason why Killsquad ended up being PvE. It was a very kind of like scientific process. And that is exactly the same reason why Made in Snow, I'm sorry to say this, we will not be PvP anytime soon. Could we do a PvP game? Yes, but that would not be Killsquad. It would be something completely different, designed for that type of experience from the start. So thanks for the question.
Nice answer. So Spider Toast points out some bugs and some things that could be fixed, that can be fixed.
Yeah.
So
Spider Toast, you should work in our QA team. No, I mean, honestly, we saw the bugs you were mentioning, one about the pillars, one about the Arisera, and that's not so much suggestions to improve the game, but it's more like bugs. It's the kind of stuff we usually sent to the team of J-Man and our QA people. So that's what we've done. What we've done is we've given them those bugs to say, hey, I mean, the process goes like this. Someone reports a bug, we reproduce it here at the office, and then once it's reproduced here in a reliable manner, so we can provoke the bug, we just address it. Okay, so that's what we're going to do about your bugs. Expect an answer soon, as we've done with the previous, I don't know, 200 bugs. I mean, that's what we're doing. Like 60% of our time has been devoted to bug hunting, which let me reiterate that. I mean, one of the reasons why you have heard less about us recently is not so much that we were working less or more, it's more that we're basically stabilizing the game. I mean, a game like this, when you release it, let's face it, you know, there are bugs, especially if it's a multiplayer game, which makes things even more complicated, you know. So all the month of August, if you look at our patch notes for all the patches during the month of August, we've done one patch per week just about bug hunting. So I'm happy to say that now bug hunting, I mean, it's not over because it's never over, but it's kind of like 70-80% over, which means that you guys are going to see more presence of us, such as this, and you're going to see more content, such as the kind of updates we're going to be doing shortly. You know, I mean, the good thing about the game now is that it's in a state in which basically it plays really, really well, we think, and now it's just about making it bigger, you know. So don't expect as much bug hunting and expect more content moving forward.
Oh, nice. And now for the last answer, the last question.
I'll give the last answer, you do the last question.
Yeah, let's do it that way, yes. Joanna, FRC, asks for cosmetics.
Cosmetics. Okay, this is a good one. So the way Novarama works is we have an art team here in-house, okay, it's 7 people, and then on top of these 7 people, we have a team working for us in China, helping us do content for the game. Okay, so of course, first thing we did, because we didn't have any revenue, is we covered all the basics, you know, like worlds and enemies and characters and heroes and all that. But now that that's all covered and it's published, basically, of course, we're working on a number of things, among them cosmetics. So for example, some of the things we're working on, and you'll see some of those later because Rick most likely is going to show you some of that. You know, we're working on character portraits, for example, so you can show your character. We're working on skins. We're working on, you know, a number of things that will basically be distilled on the next few updates. With regards to skins, I wanted to make a specific mention here. You guys requested less of the kind of like recolor type of skin and more of the geometry type of skins. Of course, we started with the recolor because they're faster to do. But now, because of your request and because, you know, of course, we want to make this the best game possible, we are actually working on some geometry reskinning, so that you're going to see the shape of your characters change, and those are going to be way cooler. Of course, they take a little bit longer, you know, so give us a little bit of time until we finish them. But yeah, you know, cosmetics are coming. And to be honest with you guys, I mean, cosmetics is one of those things you never get enough of. You know, I mean, I wish we could do 100 skins. I wish we could do 300 weapons. And when we had 100 skins, I would say, no, we need 200 skins. So to be honest, it just basically, it's as many as we can do. You know, I mean, we will just keep on doing them and more and more and more. If you look at Overwatch and you look at the range of skins on Overwatch, it's huge, you know, and so, you know, we'll get there. It's just a matter of time and just basically adding more as we advance.
So that's it. Thank you, Danny, for answering all those questions. I'm sorry we couldn't answer all of the questions you sent us. But yeah, those are the questions that we think are more important for the state of the game right now.
Yeah, I mean, what we did is basically we got like around 40 people contributing to this. So thank you, all of you guys who took the time to write about it. And then what we try to do is condense similar questions from different people into a single answer to give like a bigger answer. And just to wrap up this section of the gathering, I hope you guys understand that this is really what we want to do from now on. I mean, as I was saying before, you know, when you do a game, the first thing you need to do is stabilize it, make sure the game is, you know, running fine and not causing trouble to people, and, you know, not deleting save games, all that kind of stuff. And then once that's done, it's when the game becomes more enjoyable and you can begin talking more with the community. So expect way more like this in the coming weeks and months. I mean, in our mind, we would like to do at least one gathering like this for every major update. So after every update, we get to talk to you guys, we get to get suggestions, we get to get input from you guys, and we get to expose what we're working on. And of course, alter the course of the game depending on what you guys want and ask for. You know, I'm sorry if we have been a little bit silent during the month of August, but again, it was basically mostly due to a combination of, you know, summer and holidays and stuff, and also the fact that we were just basically fixing bugs, you know. I hope that you find this useful. We do, definitely. And now what I would like to do is basically keep going with the contents of the gathering, which is going to be talking a little bit about what comes next.
Hi, and welcome back. I will be going through some of the stuff that we're currently working on for our future updates. Currently, we're working on a feature called Career Path. It's a very exciting feature, which means that you have to set your career path for each heroes. You will be able to access this through your profile screen. There you can see all the details of your stuff and show your reputations and rank of each heroes, and also which weapons and mastery you have unlocked throughout the gameplay. Also on the profile screen, you can also view your portraits, medals, and accomplishments. You can change your portraits there and show it to your fellow bounty hunters. You can select the most beautiful profile you can choose, and you have unlocked, and then you can be able to change it and then show it as well. This screen will be coming up in the next big update. What we also have currently in development is what we're calling the mastery of skills. This feature will allow you to improve your selected skills for each hero, skill tree, allowing you to master them. Meaning that we want to showcase what skills you want to improve and which one will be at a higher level when you play against higher enemy types. We will reveal more details in the upcoming weeks. Another cool feature that we're currently working on is a crafting system. This means that you will be able to craft new weapons from new blueprints that you find in-game with resource materials you can find in the different worlds. This does not mean that we will discard your current weapons, which we know you really play so hard to get and upgrade. Both new crafted weapons and old weapons will be available to you to still play with. Within this new crafting system, you will be able to customize and select the perks that you will want to contribute to the weapons that you craft. We will give you more details on this feature in the upcoming weeks. And last but not least, we are working on a quest system. You will be given quests to embark on and obtain amazing loot and rewards once you complete them. We will give you more details of this about very soon because we're currently in development of this amazing feature.
Well, guys, that was our gathering of bounty hunters for today, in which we have tried to cover, you know, what's the history of the project, what are we working on, and basically what are you going to get on the following months, as well as getting all your feedback and trying to make a better game with it. I wouldn't want to say bye without showing you a little bit of things that are further along the road. I said before in the Q&A, when we were talking about the roadmap, that many times you discover as you develop a game that something that you didn't think before now have become important. And so in this case, for example, we have realized that we want more enemies. The kind of enemies we're going to be working on, if you've played the game, you will have found the Nightbringer. And that's a type of enemy that we really like, this idea of the semi-boss, which is not as big as a Haldoran or a Margoth, but also not a basic enemy. So it's something that you can encounter in your adventures in the outer reach, and that can cause really trouble to your team. And so we have put in production 3 of these guys, and you're going to see them here on the screen. And again, each one of these guys is going to have a unique backstory and a unique lore attached to it. And basically, you're going to find them across your adventures. They can be attached to, you know, the plague. They can be attached to one of the armies of Killsquad, but they're going to appear by surprise. And we hope with them we can add more variety and more richness. Usually, we're going to reserve this to the veteran contracts because we feel our recruit phase is mostly fine, and then it's on the veterans that we want to put all the basically big guns, as in, you know, more of the feds, more of the this you say what's I was telling you about, bringers and so forth and so on. And so here you can see the concept art of these enemies, and also you can see some work in progress meshes because these are being now worked on in our partners in China. This will be deployed at a further date during the second part of the year, and you know, we hope you guys like them.
So we reached the end of this first gathering of bounty hunters. Thank you all for watching us and playing the game, being part of this community. We appreciate it a lot. In fact, if you like the game, please leave us a review on Steam. And follow us on Twitter. And maybe join our Discord, where we talk with the community and engage with fellow bounty hunters. We'll see you all on the outer reach.